Hello and welcome to another episode of Hashtag Burning Questions. Hi Alex, hi Diego, and welcome to a new face. Hi Chris. Okay, I think Chris is
Hello.
waving. Great. All right, guys, let's get right into today's episode. And the code card we have today is from Mr. Richard Maponya, and it reads, our youngsters are growing up with the idea of having everything for free. It's an entitlement attitude. That sense of entitlement has killed the initiative of youngsters. Alex, what do you think about this quote? And considering the fact that you guys were just now speaking about Dumisani, who got
a job made for him. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yes.
No, I think Richard Maponya was an incredible man. The stalwart businessman, and he's the namesake of Maponya Mall in Soweto. And I think he's definitely onto something here. And I think it's important when we look at these quotes to look at the quote from the person and the context that they said in. This is a man who's built businesses, who's created many, many, many jobs. So I think we mustn't take lightly what he's saying. And I think it's something we hear often, right? South Africans are just entitled,
Yeah.
But I think there's something to be said when someone of his esteem in the business world tells us what we think.
Okay, Diego, a quick one. Are South Africans entitled, or is the youth of South Africa entitled? Include yourself there, sir. Thanks.
Well, I would say that, no actual study. I don't think any actual study has been done around this. So what I say, take it as my opinion. But I would say definitely the majority of South Africans are very entitled. And I mean, look, for example, at the people who are pushing for the land issue, your EFF and young people in your Fismas Falls and everything, right? While there's some sort of weight in the arguments that they raise, but at the very center of the arguments that they raise normally is the issue of entitlement. Firstly, people like the EFF, young people in the EFF, feel entitled to the South African land, for example, right? They feel entitled to it, they call it their land and stuff of that nature, but in reality, this land doesn't belong to them and has actually never belonged to them. Of course, they make references to things like your colonization, that white colonizers came into South Africa, took the land from our ancestors, as if white colonizers arrived in South Africa and found their colonizers owning every part of the land, or their ancestors staying in unity and stuff of that nature, as if colonizers arrived in South Africa and there was peace and no fights. But the reality of the matter is that there has always been that struggle of fighting for the land, even amongst Africans. Like I've mentioned, so how some of these kingdoms came about. The Sekhukhune Kingdom, the Bapedi Kingdom, for example. Tulare, the first person who founded it, came from Botswana, came into South Africa. Using his military, he conquered all the kingdoms that were around here in the northern part of South Africa and formed the Bapedi tribe, forced all those smaller kingdoms and formed the mother kingdom. What do we refer to it as again? But anyway, formed the Bapedi tribe, and now all those other small kingdoms were forced to report to him. All the kings of those small kingdoms were forced to marry wives from his kingdom and stuff of that nature. Yet South Africans these young South Africans in your EFFs and stuff still feel entitled that the land belongs to them. Stuff such as when it comes to fees, for example. We recently saw a protest by COSAS, which is the learners organization that's in partnership with the African National Congress. COSAS operates at a high school level. We recently saw them protesting to the JSE in Sandton, demanding that private businesses that side donate, if I recall well, it was R1 million, demanding, by the way, not asking, not saying that we need your assistance, saying that no, you are operating in our country, you have made all your wealth through our resources and everything of that nature, which is really nonsense. These people have never owned resources before and in their individual capacities. So for them to say that these businesses are making money out of things that belong to them, it's really nothing but entitlement, if you were to ask. But even if you look at some of the protests that are emerging in the country led by young people, a lot of them are protests led by people who are demanding stuff that don't belong to them at all. People saying that we should be taxed more so the government can increase the amount of money it gives to young unemployed people. They feel entitled to my salary. I mean, I work very hard for my own salary.
Bro.
Why feel entitled to my salary that the government should increase the tax on my salary and give you that money? It's nonsensical. So essentially, I am saying to you that I do think that generally young people in South Africa feel entitled, and that culture of entitlement should end if we are to get anywhere as a society. Everyone should go back to working for themselves, like we have always done in the history of humanity. In Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in every continent, people have always known that you have to work for yourself so you can put food on your table. And those that cannot work for themselves are those that help was provided for. We need to get back to that. People mustn't feel entitled to our own work. We must all go and work and take it from there.
Definitely. Thank you for that, Mr. Diego. So okay, the first comment we have comes from Craig, and I think Craig really agrees with the sentiments that are being shared here. And he says, truth, the world owes nobody anything. But also I'm just like, the world kind of does owe us something. It's been too unkind, but that's not what we're talking about. Chris, what are your thoughts? The world owes nobody anything. Do you agree?
Yes, I do. I was always told that nothing in life is free, and then you need to work for what you want. So, yeah, that's sort of the basis from where I come. So,
yeah.
I also wanted to add that it's all about family and family values. And if the family values aren't there, you're missing something that is quite integral to how you view the world and your place in the world. So, yeah.
That's true. I definitely agree. Okay, guys. Comment number 2. This comes from Hugh Robertson's. And he says, a problem created by the ANC and others willing to give away free stuff without thought to the country's structural needs or real employment creation. Rid ourselves of race-based policies and the country will grow. Alex, will the country grow if we get rid of race-based policies?
I think it's definitely a good start. Because it's essentially, if you look at something like the whole idea on BEE and affirmative action, preferential procurement, these are all based on ideas that you, whether maybe not intended so, but what it's become is giving contracts or other such things on the basis not on merit. So I think, that's when you start getting entitled, oh, because I know you I'll slip you a little brown envelope and you can give me this tender, or I can get, or even how a policy like BEE plays out in the private sector. When you force private companies to hire people solely based on race, then it can create a sense of entitlement or undermine the whole idea that you can, as Chris says, work hard to get something. And the problem of that is then people who, of all races who are qualified, feel cheated by the system, and you lose the best brains of no matter how much melatonin is in their skin. So I think definitely if we can get race-based policies out of the system to start with, I agree with you. I think we can be on the road to recovery for sure.
Definitely. Okay, let us go to the third comment. It's a bit weird because I can't really. Okay, so Andre starts with and will kill. I think he's agreeing to the code card. And will kill our economies to come because they want handouts from the state, no initiatives to generate for the old and the poor. Okay, so Diego, thoughts on what Andre is saying? Will he's talking about the fact that youth entitlement rather kills the economy. Is that true?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't think it will just kill the economy to come. I think it's already killing the economy as things stand.
Word. Mm,
Things are not looking good. And at the very center of why things are not looking good is the issue of entitlement on young people's part and really all majority of citizens of all ages and
mm,
really of age groups. But I do agree that this is a culture that was created by the government of the day.
word.
Say all you want to say about the apartheid system. It was a terrible system, discriminated against black people, but the governance where they governed, where the apartheid government was delivering services were delivered properly.
Mm-hmm.
Where the apartheid government was, they were not handing out it was not a government rooted in handouts, right? It was
Mm,
a government, much as it was a bad government, it was a government
yeah.
that was rooted on the principle of people having to work, although
Mm-hmm.
it made some limitations to who can have access to what work and who can't have access to what work. Now, I think that's something we should return to. There's certainly a lot that we could learn from the apartheid government, a lot of positives there, but more than anything, there's a lot that we could learn from economies such as the Singapore economy, whereby people are really encouraged to work, and
Mm,
work. That's really the only way that we could, each of us, get ourselves out of, each of us improve our lives, and those who are in
yeah.
poverty get out of poverty. Those who are in the middle class wanting go to the upper class and everything of that nature can do that. But indeed, the issue of entitlement is really killing our economy. The fact that there's a
Mm,
conversation currently in government corridors, government considering increasing the grant that it gives to young unemployed people and stuff of that nature, and that the fact that that comes from the very question of entitlement and the consequences that that would have on our economy. We'd have
mm,
less money to spend on service on delivering services. If you have less money to spend on delivering services, it
mm,
then means then that things start deteriorating, then businesses start running away and stuff of that nature. So it's a really a complex matter, but the essential point is that yes, entitlement and people who are just going to sit down and not want to work for their
yeah.
own food, it's not going to get us far. It's going to kill our economy.
Definitely. But maybe a young South African will come to you and say, Diego, I can hear you say I must go work, I must go find a job or whatever. But there are no jobs in South Africa, especially for young people. What would you say to that young South African? And don't say go start a business. What
Of
else
course,
would you say?
of course, I wouldn't say they must go start a business, but it's a bit of a complex matter because at the very heart, at the very heart of the crisis, are our policymakers. So now, when a young person comes, really, there's not much advice I could give because the real changes need to happen at the macro level. It need to happen at the policy level, need to happen at the governance level. What I would do is
So
steer.
then wait. So wait.
What I would
Are we then saying that they're not wrong in a way to be entitled because they don't really have much of a choice?
No, we are saying they are wrong for want. Well, I am saying that they are wrong for wanting more and more social grants from the government. Instead, they should demand for the government to privatize. They should demand for privatization in our society so more
Mm,
jobs could be created rather than demanding that the government gives you social grants. Essentially, you are
mm,
saying that give me money and I'll go sit down. Anyone who's a hard
and
worker
chill.
naturally and anyone who truly wants to work will go to government and say, no, I don't want your social grant. What I actually want is is a job so I can work for my income and have that dignity of working for my own income and providing for my family out of my own hands or mind and whatever, out of my own hard work.
That's true. That is true. Alex and Chris, any last sentiments or views or opinions?
I
I'll
think
let Chris have the final
that
word.
the government, okay, the government should focus rather than on giving out grants, they should focus on providing incentives and opportunities, and unemployed people and graduates and people who are dependent on grants should urge the government to provide incentives and opportunities for them to find a job and not rely on those grants for everything.
Yeah, that's true. But wait, do you guys not think that the government is doing it on purpose? Like this thing of having grants, it's like they're doing it on purpose so that they always have these people that depend on them. And if obviously they have people who depend on them, it's like, okay, these people are always going to vote for us, and no one is going to take us out from being the. I'm talking about the ANC when I'm talking about government. So it's like the ANC will always kind of be the ruling party because they're always going to have these people who depend on them. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an element of that, and we spoke about it a bit on Freedom Fanatics. How the how people have this, as Tioko mentioned, people have this perception that grants come from the ANC, not from the government, from taxpayers' money, and I think that it really is a big issue that political parties have to deal with leading up to 2024, is trying to debunk this narrative. And I think it's weaponized. I think the government has weaponized social grants to keep people loyal to the movement, to the ANC. So I think it's a massive issue. But I think, and Tioko has spoken about it before on previous episodes, is people want to work. People want the dignity to work, and social grants is the lowest of the low, if in terms of being able to support yourself and to be able to support your family. It's not a natural way of thinking that I want to be dependent on going to the post office once a month or the SASSA office to collect, what is equivalent to maybe 2 grocery shop trips, So I think it's definitely, I think if there's some, I don't know how hard it would be to try and unwind that narrative, and I think there is a deliberate tactic on the part of the ANC for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Deho.
If I could just jump in, Mbali, I think I'm burning inside me. Perhaps it's because
Okay,
it's my
sir.
birthday today, and I have all the energy in the world. But I think it's a twofold that matter. Firstly, I think we have the ANC doesn't know what it's doing. First and foremost, I think that's something I must say. They don't have a good understanding of how to grow the economy. And as a result, the second matter now. As a result, they have to end up using these things to gain support on the ground, right? They end up having to use it, but this comes because they have failed. They are failing to create a more sustainable thing that would get them the votes. So they end up, just handing out money because we can't create jobs. We don't know how to go about this thing. We'd rather hand out. I think it's that kind of a twofold that matter, sure.
Guys, I think we've come to the end of our show. Thank you so much, guys, for your time. And remember, your freedom is worth fighting for.